Hi, everybody, and welcome to our Metaverse Adventures and iLRN 2023 conference. Thank you for joining us today. I am so excited to have invited Ben Erwin. You have no idea, like I'm a big fan of WebXR Summit, WebXR Awards, and all of these. He's multi-talented. And when I read his bio, I was like, wow, I was blown away. I am the session chair for the Metaverse Adventures. Today, actually, I'm the one who started Metaverse Adventures. And I'd love to welcome Ben. Ben Erwin is the creator of the Polys, WebXR Awards, WebXR Summit Series, and MetaTr versal, which have impacted the industry by catalyzing awareness of and engagement with the immersive web. His work is dedicated to the advancement of the XR industry through the recognition of its pioneers and events that provide an advocacy platform for thought leaders. He is a passionate proponent for cooperation and standards for the metaverse. As an internet frontiersman since the 1990s, Ben has served as a developer and as an executive for digital media agencies, creating data-driven interactives for dozens of major brands. For 13 years, he was a webmaster and consultant for the United Nations humanitarian section and partner NGOs, bringing awareness to the plight of women and children in conflict areas around the world. Before the internet, Ben began his career in the entertainment and music industry. Ben is a digital polymath with decades of experience in marketing, management, programming, video editing, and writing. Influenced by his years as a veteran of the browser wars, he was teamed up with XR industry leadership to produce the MetaTr series of events. These events are designed to galvanize the community around cooperation on the development and adoption of open standards and platform interoperability for the metaverse. Ben believes passionately in the potential of immersive content as a positive means for evolved human communication, particularly in civics, journalism, and education. Through shining a light on the good works of innovators, he aims to help preserve their legacy and inspire others to build upon their work. Wow. We are honored to have Ben Erwin as our featured guest speaker today for the Metaverse Adventures. And we look forward to gaining insights and inspiration from his extensive experience and unique perspective on the future of the metaverse. Yeah, so the floor is yours, Ben.
Thank you, Amany. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you to iLRN, John Richter, and everybody who's here. Hi, Karen. You're a part of the story I'm about to tell, so I'm very excited to tell it and have this opportunity to share what we've been working on and what we are going to continue to be working on with everyone. My name's Ben Erwin, as she explained, gone through my bio, but I'm going to begin with sharing my screen here, and this screen is the one that we want. And there we go. So here we are. What I do, what really makes me happy in this life seems to be shining light on the good works of others. I really genuinely enjoy the community feel that we have in the XR industry. And what it's given me the opportunity to do is create a series of events and build a really incredible team of people that I love dearly who have worked with me on this to create these events. So just a little bit about me to get it out of the way. We have all these brands that she said, the dozens of major brands. I've been a consultant. I started off at a talent agency in the proverbial mailroom. And then I probably have the most interesting hair karma of all, having run the telemarketing department for Hair Club for Men for several years. And that's how I got both my data and my executive chops early on in my career. And then somebody invented this thing called the internet. And I said, you know what? Everybody's going to need a website someday. So I decided to go out on the frontier, and then I've been out there ever since. I'm very proud of the fact that I haven't been a W-2 since 1997, and I have been working in various aspects of, creative NGOs, all sorts of different types of businesses, as you can see from this. But as you mentioned, Amany, the highlights being working at the United Nations for 13 years. I was the webmaster for the Office of the Special Representative of the Secretary General for Children in Armed Conflict from 2002 through 2014. And in that time, I created some of the first multilingual websites that were able to distribute the information, the very sensitive information about the plight of children in war, in all 6 of the official languages. And in 2012, I was the first one to build a WordPress site that function in all of that. And that by several years outlasted my tenure at the UN, worked at several agencies doing interactive media, and I just loved that. And the sort of crescendo of that era in my life was at the New York Times, where I worked on some really great brands with some really great people and had fun doing it. And then that was sort of peak web development era as far as I'm concerned. And it was around that time that web development became more commoditized with WordPress themes and Wix and Square and the sort of do-it-yourself thing. And I had been working in content management for a long time. So they finally had sort of simplified that. But at that moment, I also went to Web Summit in Portugal. And it was there that I got to try 4 VR headsets at the same time. I tried the Oculus Rift, the HTC Vive, the HoloLens 1, and the Gear VR. Now, Gear VR is, of course, phone VR. The content and the quality of the HoloLens experience wasn't really all that exciting. The Vive experience rocked my world because I thought I was in a photorealistic environment until I stuck my head through a wall, and that blew my mind. But it was the comfort of the Oculus Rift that made me go and buy one. And so that sort of began my XR life in late 2016. And then after a dalliance with crypto and blockchain in 2017, I refocused myself on XR. So I had learned a lot about what they're now calling Web3 during that era, but in 2019, I focused very heavily on the volumetric and virtual production and did a lot of writing on the subject, but it was still not the web. And being somebody who's from the web browser didn't really come out until the Quest had it in 2019, and the WebXR spec matured in 2020. And I happened to get, on the very day that Hello WebXR was released, a Quest browser, and had my first immersive experience on the web. And I was like, this is what I've been waiting for. So over the course of that year, I became obsessed with WebXR. But in the meantime, the pandemic hit. I met Julie Smithson and Terry Schussler, and we worked together on XR Collaboration, which was an industry resource guide. And Karen here and I worked on the 2nd edition of that together. And that sort of became, that began the story. I met Sophia Mashasha doing Ready Player Golf 1, and I'm going to tell you about all these things in those years. But let me change slides here and let me sort of pick up the story from here. So what we do is impactful events, and over the last 3 years, we produced 28 pretty influential events that I'm very proud of. And the Poly's WebXR Awards is the flagship event of the year. With that, I'll talk quite a bit more about that. But also the WebXR Summit Series, MetaTr Versal, and Ready Player Golf. Now, one of the things that's really profound about the WebXR Awards and accomplishing its intentions is that we are wanting to shine a light on the good works of the people who are pioneering the immersive web. And now I'm not getting sound here. You're not getting sound? We can't hear.
If you see the 3 dots on Zoom, you can just click on them and then you will find share screen. Oh, you're muted, Ben. Ben, you're muted.
I don't want to mess with the settings. It's on the
Okay.
computer behind me, so it's okay. But long story short, what Thomas Wallner here, he's the director of the Magic of Flight, who won 3 Polys at the second Polys, Video Education and Experience of the Year. He's telling the story of how it actually helped him get investors to believe in his product that he's been developing. And so, you know, it's that sort of real world impact that we're very proud of at the Polys. And so the Poly itself is what we aspire to be the trophy of Immersive. And there are several award shows that have been around there. The Augies itself, shout out to the Augies for being the most venerable of all of the awards, has been around since 2010. There are several other awards, but the Poly is what we want to see become the sort of trophy, the Poly Emmy, Grammy, Webby of the immersive medium. And it's really what we're talking about here is the immersive medium, which is something that you're inside of. So one of the things about the Polys is there's a lot of WebXR out there, and it is the WebXR Awards, but all of the experience awards that we have require that they actually work in either VR or AR to function. So if they don't have 6DoF, they're not eligible for the award. And that's sort of a parameter that narrows the field quite a bit in terms of what the Poly is eligible for. But as we want to become the award for immersive, we're going to be talking about expanding some of the offerings. One of the things we also have learned from the second Poly, where we went to 17 awards, is the show starts to run long at that point. So kind of striking that balance between giving out more awards for more worthy content and keeping the show tight is challenging. So the first Polys happened on February 20th, 2021, hosted by Julie Smithson, and red carpet by Sophia Mashasha, and all 3 of the Polys have been hosted by Julie and Sophia. The second Polys had 17 awards, and that was a very intense show. And we had the first live halftime show by Onboard XR. Brendan Bradley and his team came out and actually did a show in hubs with Clemence Debye doing mocap capture in WebXR, and that was one of a kind. We had a really robust red carpet, had a Karen Maliki Sanchez won Creator of the Year. And so this group of ladies here, AKA XR Women, I'm very proud to be doing this amazing work with. And so these shots here were taken at the recent Poly Awards in March. And we also want to give a shout out to Cousin Christie, who created the crazy immersive world that was the Poly's Altspace Theater. Rest in peace, Altspace. We did a funeral for Altspace. I have a slide for that in a second. Lauren Mulder, Mark Lambert. There's actually about 25 people that I could go through a list of that I'd love to give shout outs to, but I definitely wanted to show these people's faces. So the Altspace funeral. What can you say? Altspace died an untimely death, and we all miss it deeply. It was something that really brought the community together and has created an experience that it's going to stand alone. It's going to stand unique. There are several different platforms that do what it does, but Altspace was very special, and the community that it built was very special. So Athena Demos got up on stage and honored Altspace with a live eulogy broadcast into Altspace with a animated coffin that Cuz came up with the robot. And there you see in the picture Athena on stage with her googly eyes on her headset, actually performing the eulogy live. So the video of the Polys the long-awaited release of the video. It is imminent that it is dropped. The edit is done, and I'm just running it through the team. Can't wait to share that with the world, so you'll hear about that. So the third Polly's had a series of firsts, besides having the first live funeral at an award show. Other ones have in memoriam. We're still going to do the in memoriam, but the live funeral was something special. But we broadcast from an LED stage. And what you see there is, Julie and Athena, and you see Sean Frayne, who's the CEO of the Looking Glass, who was kind enough to sponsor the Polly's and gave all 11 award winners a Looking Glass display in which that contained their holographic Polly. And so we have all 11 of those have been shipped, and we're really proud of the fact that we went from having a virtual trophy that we literally NFT'd and emailed to the recipients previously, and now we're giving them a physical device that they can put in their living room. Patrick Cozy just sent me a picture of his Polly in his office, which is great. I have so much more that I could potentially show you, but this is kind of a big deal here. It was that we were the first award show to have a live volumetric broadcast. And so this is actually the finale of the show, with Karen, Sophia, and Julie wrapping things up. But we had Sophia had her red carpet in the volumetric. Now, what you're looking at there, that is what our red carpet theater in Altspace looked like. But because Cause and Christie built this in Unity, they were able to bring this in and actually bring the holograms from the volumetric capture stage live into the shoot, have a moving camera so that you could really get the effect of it, even though it's broadcast in 2D here. You could really get the sense that this is a volumetric video that we're using. And so we're really proud of that. First, there's Julie, both in the world, and you can sort of see what the stage looked like, where she's standing on the capture stage and being put holographically into a hot tub. And that was just, a crescendo of fun. So, we just couldn't have been happier with the sort of miracle about how this thing came together in the final days. So real quickly, sort of run through some of the other stuff here, which is hard to run through quickly because there's so much of it. We had 248 speakers from 222 companies and 128 sessions over 54 hours. Sharing in 6 9-hour sessions that happened over the course of 2 years, plus each of those summits had a community Zoom call. So shout out to Trevor Flower, Samantha Matthews, Kent Bai, Dr. Karen Alexander, Sophia Mishasha, and Daniel Dabosky Bryant, who respectively hosted the developer, business, design, education, brand, and production summits. All were hosted by Julie. And we also do some insane live XR stunts. The thing that will probably never be attempted again or topped will be Sophia leading a cast of 17 people on the main stage at AWE performing live all of this. So you can sort of see there all of the different characters. I co-wrote and directed this 3-act play, which is the story of interoperability in the metaverse. And Sophia got up on stage and did a brilliant job of leading this whole story where we sort of expounded upon the importance of XR technology and interoperability through a sort of story that people can identify with, both from a personal and a professional perspective. And we had a lot of fun doing it. The year before that, at the previous AWE, Terry Schussler, Julie, Christy Fennison, and I got up on a very small stage wearing HoloLenses, and we demonstrated the sort of 8 existing live WebXR thing, including a volumetric video by 8i that you see in the picture there. And we had several different types of experiences. So that was a unique live XR stunt we're doing. The third Polly's with the volumetric stage was one big XR stunt, and we're not done doing XR stunts. So MetaTr was not in XR, but it was certainly the first one in and of itself was a stunt by calling it Meta and that was great until we actually talked to the World Economic Forum, and they were just kind of like, nah, not so much with the Meta name, but we love what you're doing. And so traversal, the whole thing's about portals. And so traversing the metaverse is what we're using as a point of consensus to bring together the players in the industry who are responsible for decision makers who want to see platforms be interoperable. And this is really key. Going back to my scars as a web developer, spending time I will never get back working on workarounds for obscure browser edge cases, it's really essential that all forms of the XR community become as interoperable as possible to save developers pain, lost times. Like somebody's got to pay for this. The companies that are investing in these experiences who want to reach all of these devices. So I think that, hopefully the industry will learn lessons from Web 1 and Web 2 as we go into Web 3.0, which is different than Web 3. I can talk about that if you want. But this group of people here, Ivo Haining chaired it, Julie Smithson co-hosted it, Terry Schussler and Neil Trevet and I sort of came up with the idea and decided that we were actually going to create this event. And Daniel Dubosky Bryant helped pull the whole thing together. And so what this did was it demonstrated the will on the part of the industry that there needs to be cooperation on standards. And so this video that you can't hear right now is actually from the Open Metaverse podcast. And Neil Trevet kindly, generously gave Ivo and I and the Metaverse group, all of us that can be thanked here, including Sophia and Karen and a lot of people who touched this project, gratitude for having done this, because the MetaTr series, which was 3 90-minute Zoom calls in sort of an international politics format of 5-minute speeches, followed by a 2-hour event, and then the MetaTr stage play, demonstrated the will of the industry to come together. And so by the time we got to AWE, Neil had actually formed the Metaverse Standards Forum, which launched a couple of weeks after AWE. And within a couple of months, it has over 2,000, now it's over 2,400, it's coming up on its first anniversary. It's now incorporated. It's a real body working on real standards. So if I could point to anything that I helped get done, and certainly it's not me that got the Metaverse Standards Forum done, Neil and a lot of people got this rolling. And if you are a member of the Metaverse Standards Forum, or if you're not a member, you can join it and listen in on these calls, and you can really get a sense of how the sausage is getting made on standards and interoperability on a host of topics. There are working groups together. And more importantly, the Metaverse Standards Forum is not a standards body itself. It is a group of standards bodies that are each working on their own specialized area of expertise. And so that is what sort of brought MetaTr into play. Ready Player Golf, again, is where I met Sophia in 2020. And this was created and convened by Richard Ward, who during the pandemic sort of missed his golf outings with his friends. And he said, you know what, why don't we put together a VR charity golf outing? And so we did. He called me in literally days before the organization of all of the people who needed to play and how we were going to put them into rooms needed to be solved. And so I came up with a technical solution. Sophia and I, our friendship was forged in the fires of the first Ready Player Golf in the first 2 nights. And that sort of will lead us back into the Poly story. where since we've done XR Safety Initiative, last year our beneficiary was perfect. The Children's Cancer Research Fund, they're actually using VR to do good. And so we are in discussions about what Ready Player Golf 4 is going to look like and when, but Engage has been a fantastic partner. Chris Madsen, David Whalen, Sandra Whalen, Mike Armstrong, David McDermott, and their team gave us a clubhouse that is sort of a home base for that. And we haven't done them in a minute, but Friday Friendlies is sort of our community organizing that we do during the year in Engage, and more announcements about that to come. But this is a little bit outside of the WebXR world, but it's also something that I have got to work on every year and I'm really proud of. And now for what we're going to do next, which is Meet the Makers. And this hour-long first pilot episode I'm going to launch at AWE is in production right now, and I've already recorded most of the interviews for it. Artsy is an amazing world builder who has done literally hundreds of templates that were used in thousands of events on AltSpace. And so she's got quite a story to tell about her arc of getting into VR, becoming a world builder, and then ultimately, most recently, the impact of AltSpace. But she's going strong and doing some stuff. Ben Ferns won 2 polys at the last awards. He's part of the team with Foria. He's sort of a consultant for Foria that had worked with Lusion and Meta and Zelig Sound to create the augmented reality pass-through experience of the year and experience of the year winning thing. If you have not done spatial fusion, it's magnificent. You need a AR pass-through device and a WebXR browser to do it, but it is just fantastic. It's sort of a gamified puzzle that is really exciting. And of course, Ivo Heining, who is many things in this industry. She works for, well, she's created a studio called Reality Craft. She's written a book called Prompt Craft. She's done the Open Metaverse Interoperability Group, OMI. She has done MetaTr as the chair of that. And she recently won the community award for the polys, and I'm missing one of her other community credentials there. But moving on, as we were telling the story before about the volumetric capture, this here is the group that we're going to do a little bit of a feature on to sort of tell the story about what happened at the polys. And James George, Corey Allen, Cousin Christie made this happen at Zero Space. And at AWE, we're actually going to be live. And Corey's not going to be with us, but Elena Peach from Zero Space is going to join us live on stage. We're going to debut the sort of a highlight reel of Meet the Makers, and we are also going to be sending the we're going to be doing live the we're going to be having the conversation live that will be a bit different than what's in there. This is iLRN. This is the Immersive Learning Research Network, and I always thought it was cool that I have 0 degrees. Actually, I never graduated college, but I have taught myself everything that I know about web development and XR, and I'm a passionate lifelong student of just about everything, and I have an encyclopedic memory for things and events. And you know, so I've got some years in doing stuff, and so I've got a bit of a perspective on immersive learning. And I want to, after my next couple of slides, I only have 2 more. I'm going to talk about, I want to open this up for questions and have a discussion about this, because this is iLRN. But I had some inspiration when I first got into XR, I was at the Educators in VR 2020 Global Summit, and three of the talks there were really inspiring. Tom Furness gave this legendary talk, "We're Playing with Fire," that really sort of gave the ethics conversation a push that had a really profound effect on me. But as it relates to learning, spatial memory was something that was there. I just got a warning from my computer that I'm going to lose battery here. So please give me 20 seconds to fix that. Done. Okay. I think I did that in less than 20 seconds. Julie Smithson got up, and this is all in VR, mind you. So they were all up on the sort of classic, auditorium place in Altspace. And I knew who Julie was, but she and I had never met before. And she gave a talk on humanics, which is humanics is something that was coined in the book. Actually, I forgot the book's name, but Joseph Aoun is the author. Like, it was about robotics, and it was about keeping our humanity and sort of the parts of our brain that are, focused on liberal arts and stuff, and not just technology, but to use technology to advance our humanity. And so that was sort of the science of that. But another quote that I thought was interesting was she quoted Jeremy Bailenson with DICE. And what VR is good for is dangerous, impossible, counterproductive, and expensive. So these are all things that you cannot do in real life that you can do in VR. And then Daniel Dubosky Bryant had opened the session with "We are pioneers." And that sort of like made me like, wow, I'm here at a very special moment. And he closed it with "We have found tribe." And I got to say that I too found tribe within this XR community. So my last slide here is the thought that I want to leave you with in terms of XR for learning, XR for education, is that we have not even begun to tap into the vein of what is possible with this. And right now, there's more talk than walk in the space. iLRN has done a magnificent job over a large number of years for doing the research that is involved in this. But what we're waiting for is the infrastructure. We need devices and connectivity, affordability, because if we're going to reach the mass market, people have to be able to buy these things. And I think we're getting to the tipping point of that right now, as well as corporate having mass procurement, schools, education systems having mass procurement. So until we have that sort of infrastructure in place, then XR for learning is not going to be put into practice enough to be able to leverage it. But we all believe that that's going to happen, and it's essential that it happens and happens the right way. We haven't caught up in digital yet. The missing word with avoiding a new digital D is divide. We want to avoid a new digital divide. And it's really important that XR for education not be limited to kids who can afford it, who are in special schools. Once we get into a world where these devices are accessible to students of all ages, that the ability for us to create curricula and syllabi will be upon us. And this is something that has been worked on, is continuing to be worked on, but I think that we really need to, now that we have the devices, particularly mixed reality devices, to really focus on exploring this medium, because there's still a lot of 2D and 3D, just going into a spatial experience to watch a video or see to read text isn't what really activates your memory. And I had the privilege a week and a half ago to go to our friend Rolando Macizo Bondo's dissertation at Princeton, where he talked about neuroscience. He has been a doctoral student there for years, and he has done specifically as it relates to memory, a lot of study and gathered a lot of data on exactly what activates a person's memory in VR and analyzed all these different techniques. So the way that our minds react to space, the way that imprints memories, like when we're having a holographic conversation, and like one unforgettable moment for me was Julie, Sophia, and Karen and I all got Quest Pros right when they came out. And the first thing we did was we had a party in there and we appeared in each other's living rooms as avatars. And we kind of were there in the moment to experience telepresence. And that's one kind of memory that we can have together, is this ability for us to share a space. And when the Apple device comes out, they're going to tout this is the killer app. Can't wait to see exactly how their execution is going to be. It's going to be much different than Meta's with Meta avatars. But in general, when you are in a virtual space and you have information around you, those shapes and 3D objects and so forth really imprint your memory different than black and white text, the photos, videos are ever going to do. And so this is how we can really leverage immersive content. So what I would like to advocate for is the development of open source content, because a lot of the paradigm of the education system that we've known is based on, writing textbooks. And of course, teachers who write textbooks deserve royalties and deserve to be paid and so forth. But I think that foundations and people who are putting a lot of money into investing in this should invest in open source content so that schools can afford to get the content, because not only they need to get the devices, that they can't just automatically pass on the bill to students. And so the creation of open source content and the open source tools to build it with is very important. And lastly, leveraging WebXR, because WebXR works in headsets, it works in desktop computers, it works on mobile. And thanks to that, these experiences can be widely distributed. And so one of the things that I'm working on right now is I joined up with this group called Reskill in India, who asked me to mentor a project called the XROS Fellowship. And XROS is not just Apple's operating system. In their case, it stands for XR Open Source. And so I'm actually mentoring 6 students that I chose from 120 applicants to build a basically take a framework for WordPress that I built myself that was just sort of a hacked together theme, and then turn that into a production ready WordPress theme that other people can use who don't even know 3D, can use it to leverage the familiar WP admin interface to be able to organize their information and their assets and be able to publish experiences. And my theory with this is that our approach to making the web more immersive doesn't necessarily need to mean that we have to invest in one-off sites and say, oh, here's an experience. The way we do that is that we onboard one site at a time, one page at a time, and all of these 450 million websites that are in WordPress and 13 million JavaScript developers, most of which haven't discovered XR yet, will be able to create WebXR experiences and be able to pull all this off. So with that, I thank you all. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to speak with you here. Closing with my thank you slide, which is this amazing group shot of the end of the Poly Awards here. I have the whole team and a lot of our guests and speakers involved there, and it was really a touching moment for all of us. And so I thank you very much. And I'm going to turn off my screen sharing now. And Amany, I am ready to answer questions.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was really inspiring, amazing. And all these ideas about XR and everything that you have created and all these projects and all those amazing people who were involved. That's really amazing and incredible. I love to encourage everyone to actively participate and ask questions. Please don't hesitate to share your thoughts or any questions that you have today. So I think we may have, oh, okay. I have a question, but I'm going to wait, see if anyone else has.
Everybody, I don't bite.
Yeah. You really shared great insights.
I did that all in one breath. Like at the top of the hour, I took one deep breath and I said all that. So now I'm done, and I just want to hear from you. And like, what did you think was interesting? Like, come on, ask me a question.
Hi.
Yeah, please.
I'm happy to talk. Hi, that was great, Ben. Very
Thank you.
inspiring and interesting, your journey into this space. What would you say as far as you know, you're doing so many different things, it's kind of phenomenal. You find the time, to be honest. and what exactly but the real truth is, what do you do any of this stuff in person as well as in the you know, in the metaverse, I guess, so to say?
Well, yeah. I mean, as far as speaking in person, ask me to, and I will go somewhere and talk. But I've produced a couple of in-person events. It actually started at Silicon Harlem in 2018 and 2019. I produced their annual conference, their 5th and 6th annual conference in Harlem, and that was a really special event where we brought together the Harlem community and Clayton Banks, who is the founder of Silicon Harlem and does so much. Clayton, just a quick tangent on Clayton. Clayton was actually out giving computers to kids in the middle of the pandemic with a mask on when no one was, everyone was afraid to go outside. But I was been friends with Clayton for a really long time, and the Silicon Harlem event was something that I was really proud to work on with him. And then, of course, this live event that we did at Zero Space that Amany was at. Thank you for coming, Amany. Really enjoy doing the hybrid events, and look forward to doing more. And of course the AWE thing as well. But yes, I like to do live events.
Okay, so Dot Cannon is asking a question: how can indie creators give back in the XR space?
Well, as I said, open source your content, open source your code. Everybody's got to make a living, and everybody needs to sort of get gratification for what they've done. One of the things that I felt that I didn't do enough of, partially, I guess it was insecurity about whether my code was good enough, partially because, I very much hacked my way through a lot of the code that I wrote, and a lot of it was writing workarounds for browser edge cases that didn't exist yet. But I discovered that open source wins at the end of the day, and I can point to several different things. First of all, Flash died. It wasn't just died, it was executed like John Wick, like no more Flash, couldn't sell it to a client again. Steve Jobs wrote a letter, said that iOS would never run, or that Flash would never run on iOS, could never sell it to a client again. But what was worse than that was 9 years later, it was expunged from every browser. And now half my portfolio of the first 10 years is literally expunged from the website, from the internet. And luckily I made videos of my Flash movies before that happened. But that's a painful lesson for us all to learn. And MP4 files, the open format, like how many players and things, like right now where everybody's trying to build the best metaverse and try to be the winner of that, just like people were trying to win the video player wars, real media. You remember that, like Windows Media Player, like all of these formats, they are relegated to the dustbin of history because the open format MP4 won, and now every video that we look at is MP4. Blender, okay, you've got all of these awesome things, not to take anything away from Autodesk, which owns some of the amazing tools, and Houdini and all of these pro level tools. Blender is free, it's open source, you can hack into it, but it is also a professional grade production software. So, these are just some examples of how amazing open source is. So indie creators, go open source, and you'll be glad you did.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
By all means.
Awesome. So you brought out the infrastructure is not really there yet, especially the hardware. And I'm kind of curious what your opinion is. What's the timeline when we actually get there? What's the ETA where the hardware actually is affordable and everybody's got it?
Let me check my crystal ball. Hold on. Well, I mean, I've been in this a while, and there's been a lot of sort of false starts, and we have got the Gartner hype cycle, and right now AI is having its moment. The year before, the Metaverse had its moment. The year before, we had a crypto bull run. It's cyclical. It's going to happen over and over again. We're getting these ridiculous, I mean ridiculous articles that say the Metaverse is dead. I mean, come on, the Metaverse
It hadn't even got
dead.
started yet.
The term Metaverse may or may not, persist, but I think it will, because the reason that the word metaverse matters is because it is a virtual universe, and people relate to that. And the whole idea of VR and AR and MR and XR is too abstract for consumers, and it is not pushing the consumer adoption forward. The metaverse thing, however, is, but Apple's not going to call it the metaverse. But what we're going to see in the next couple of years, to directly answer your question, what I see in the short term is Apple's going to come out with this device. $3,000 makes it the beta program that tests you. And so it's, going to be there for Apple fans and developers and companies and agencies, and they'll be like, yeah, $3,000, don't worry about it, I'll spring for it. Consumers are not going to buy a $3,000 device, and Apple knows this. They may go $1,200 like they do for an iPhone Pro, but they're not going to go $3,000. But what the smart play that Apple's making with this is that they are going to be bringing to market a content ecosystem. The reason that they make it prohibitively expensive is so that the developers get in there, build the content ecosystem, which I am hoping and anticipating WebXR to have a significant role in. Safari for Apple Glass for XROS is going to be a significant thing. We know that it's working on it. How big their commitment is, whether or not it's going to be standards compliant, remains to be seen. But Quest 3, the Lenovo VRX, the Wolvik browser. Big shout out to the Wolvik browser, the team at Igalia. They took the open source, again, open source Firefox browser, and on August 12th, this is a where were you moment in XR. Anybody remember the day that was a little laid off its mixed reality team in August of 22? It was jaw dropping. And with it died the Firefox browser. Igalia resurrected it, brought it back, and they're going to be showcasing at AWE. They're rolling out a Chromium build of it, and it little by little, it's showing up on XR devices. So this is going to be something that is not an exclusive WebXR thing. So all that plus solving for the question I can't answer is how quickly will we solve for the physics of light, heat, and form factor, and to put an all-day wearable device on your head that doesn't irradiate your brain, isn't too hot, isn't uncomfortable, is good for your eyes. All these things are really hard science
Battery
problems to
storage
solve.
alone is a real issue.
Well, and that's why it's going to be
something
like,
like
it's going to be a belt strap or like a over-the-shoulder thing to be able to do that, because they just couldn't get it done. and no one else can either. The battery is probably the hardest thing to do. So yeah, I would say we're probably we're at the beginning of the mixed reality hybrid device era, and we're probably 4 to 5 years out before any kind of realistic consumer grade accessible AR glasses start hitting the market. They're out there now. They exist. The tech exists. The LED, the micro LED things, they exist. And real, there's a whole bunch of new eyes. There's a whole lot of them. But at the end of the day, the one that's going to get the mass market adoption is still years out. Volumetric displays, also really hard problems to solve. You can't have light without having some sort of interference to be able to make a hologram like, the communicator in Black Panther or Captain Marvel or something. That's what everybody wants.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Ben, I have a question. Is there anyone else who have a question? I just heard someone talking. Okay. Since you mentioned education and spatial content, I have a question that I've been asking many people about it in terms of education. What knowledge do you believe educators need to have in order to incorporate XR into the curriculum?
Well, that's an excellent question, because onboarding is really key. So the first thing is you need to get a device. You need to be willing to take the leap of faith and invest in devices. And I had that moment myself. As I said, I studied XR aggressively for years. And then I decided that there was a lot of people talking about it, but unless you were actually doing it, unless you had a device. So I bought some gear. And one of those devices was the Quest Pro or the Quest 1, and it changed my life. So I wouldn't buy a Quest 2 now. If you haven't bought an XR device, wait for the Quest 3. I don't know how long until the Apple device, like that will probably be something you want to buy also. But my money is on the Quest 3 for a lightweight, affordable, mixed reality pass-through device that is consumer affordable and powerful enough to be able to do that. But that doesn't stop you from, if you don't own a device, go to a friend's house, borrow it, ask them to do that. But until you put that headset on and spend time in there, you can't make your own assessment. So that's what you need to do is do it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Any other questions?
I had one something to say. Just basically wanted to ask about, that's great that you basically talked about some of the constraints regarding, the device, battery life. But it's funny because this has been around since the 60s, right? There's been so many iterations and experiments with the government, and some independent investors have been able to get some devices that are kind of similar to what we see now. But you're right, we're kind of in that hybrid state. It's the device is still, there's a device war going on, right? Apple, Google, they're all fighting. Look at the HoloLens.
The war has hardly begun.
Exactly.
We just see opening shots in that battle.
Exactly. And it's going to be great to see that where it's going to go. What do you think about quantum computing compared to how would that help? In terms of, what are your thoughts on that?
I have an answer to that question, because in that Silicon Harlem talk that I did, we had showcased 6 fourth industrial revolution technologies. So the first industrial revolution was steam, and that was the mechanical revolution. The second industrial revolution was electricity, or it was the electrical revolution that gave us assembly lines. The digital revolution, of course, gave us the microchip and all the things that came from that, the internet, and everything that made possible. But now we're in the fourth industrial revolution that I dubbed the virtual revolution. And so the mechanical, electrical, digital, virtual. And XR is the content piece of that. AI is the automation piece of that. The DLT or blockchain is the data storage portion of that, which is going to be very important for identity. IoT, the Internet of Things, like all of these devices, if it connects to the internet, it's an IoT device, and that's the hardware component of it. The connectivity portion of it is 5G is of the now, 6G is coming, USB 4, like whatever can push more data through a wire faster that's just going to continue to improve. The sixth and final, linchpin of the fourth industrial revolution that like the hype cycle for that, we're only getting whispers of it now, is quantum computing. And that is going to be the processing part of it, because all of these technologies are extremely resource hungry. And as a result, when that happens, it's going to break blockchains, and it's going to make quick work out of all of these really hard experiences that are required to power AI, that are required to power XR. I mean, it's all of this is, to be done at scale is going to need that level of processing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, there's another session, there's another panel. Yeah, so thank you so much. That was a great talk. Thank you so much, Ben. Thank you for sharing your expertise, insights, and inspiring ideas. And thank you all for attending. Yeah, thank you so much.
My pleasure. I have a question from Dot Cannon, who's gone. So if you can connect me, Amany, with Dot Cannon, whoever that is, I would love to send her the answer to the question that she sent, but she's already left. So thank you, everybody, for staying with me for the full hour. Appreciate you, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.